Hey traders, Michael or Mini Frost here. You're here for another episode of Common Sense Market Analysis. Today is Hump Day, August 13th, 2025. You're looking at a daily chart of the SPY or Spiders, which is the proxy for the S&P 500. What do we have on the docket today? Well, guess what? She finally made her way to the important number we talked about last night. That special number was 645, big fat semi-round number. We closed a little bit below, but look at this. She made a high of 646.19, she spiked it by about $1, and then she came right back down. So there was no doubt that this number was important, it was magnetic, it was overhead resistance, and I gave it to you last night. I think for today's discussion it makes sense to start backwards and start with inside the numbers with the 0 dark 30 stuff. So this is the game plan that we had well before the market was even open. Today's notes were posted at around 6:30 a.m. So what do we got? We're in an important area in relation to the ES. Those important numbers are 6450, which we were currently above at that time, and then 6500, a big and fat round number. They're important magnetic overhead resistance, and it's a target on the upside. Take a look at the ES for a moment. The high right here is 6502.50. That's pretty much right on the money. For those of you who have been in the E-mini or masterclass, you know that these numbers, without a doubt, are important, hence the reason why we put them on the board. In relation to the SPY, that number came in at around 646, give or take, but this was an overhead resistance zone. From the 645 to the 646, that was the zone. And you bet we had inside the numbers and live room members take advantage of this trade. Alright, so we're going to continue working backwards, and there's a lot of good stuff in here, so just bear with me because it gets better and better with each number that I go over. So first things first, let's start with the bull pivot today. Most days we just have one pivot, but today we had a bull and a bear pivot. The bull pivot came in at 645. What a shocker. And I don't need to go back to the chart because you guys already know what happened at that level. But what's more interesting is that I mentioned that we had another number at 644.40, and she hit it to the penny in the Globex session. Now that doesn't mean she can't do it again in the morning session, but we were going to look for some type of spike or something like that, some more confirmation before we actually get into a trade off that number. And guess what? If we scroll up a bit, we can see at around 10:26 we started talking about that number. That number became more important as the day went on, and we could call that a pivot-ish number. So she's coming into the number, could possibly use it as support. And then at 10:30, I stated getting below and closing candles below 644.40, she can go down for a leg lower, possibly down to the gap/bear pivot. Can possibly enter short once we get some more confirmation as we continue to close candles below 644.40. As of right now, that's what she's doing. And then we stated that she managed to close the hour below 644.40, which was the first sign of bearish behavior. But we wanted to see how they still treated that number with 5-minute and or 15-minute candle closes. Alright, so let's go take a look. Vertical line is today's activity. The pivot is in green. Came up short of the number the first time around. Okay, that's fine. She made her way to 646. That was 6,500 in the ES, and that was overhead resistance. So what was stated in the notes was closing candles below 644.40, we're in for another leg lower. As we could see in this area right here, we got below it, and then we started using it as resistance on the way back up. But what's more important is we started closing candles below, and this number was a pivot-ish number. As stated in the notes, getting below, she can go for a leg lower, possibly down to the gap or the bear pivot. So we managed to scoop up the trade when she came back for a retest, and we pulled off a pretty nice short. How you doing? This was all written in the notes intraday, took a short position on the retest of 644.40, and my first target was a touch in front of 643.55. And then you got the gap down below at 642.65, which is the bear pivot. How you doing? She reached first profit target right here. And look at this. She hit it pretty much on the penny and then bounced right back up. So that definitely was a great place to take some profit off the table. We were looking for a base hit. Base hits are anywhere between 50 to 70 SPY cents or 5 to 7 S&P handles, and then we hold a trailer. And guess where that trailer led us to? Right towards the bear pivot at 642.65. She made a low of 642.68, came up 3 cents short. We're not going to split hairs over pennies. We know that that number worked 100%. It was a target on the downside. It was support as well for traders who wanted to ride it back up. And then where'd she go to? She went to 643.65, stopped right on the number, came right back down, couldn't fulfill the number, so this is unfinished business at 642.65, and then we started to work our way back up. Where to? The bull pivot, 644.40. Spiked it by a touch, used it as resistance, but eventually got over it towards the end of the day. Strong close on the day. We'll get into that in a moment when we start going over the bigger picture for the SPY. But all in all, the numbers were freaking banging today. Pause the video and read the notes, go back to the charts to double check the work. It's all in here. If you're actively trading the SPY, you must know your pivots. It is essential to day trading. If you don't know your pivots, you're getting left in the dust. So if you need a game plan and the numbers, inside the numbers is the place to go. Real quick, we had two stocks on the move today. We had CRWV and Kava. Only one of them hit its entry targets. That was CRWV. I think that is CoreWeave. We'll find out in a moment. But entry number 1, 128. Entry number 2, 125.71. Let's go take a look. Entry number 1, 128.01 on the board, spiked it by a touch and ripped it back in the other direction for a nice trade. We had members trading CoreWeave. Just to show you guys, we had a few traders taking that in the live room. Actions speak louder than words. Just wanted to throw that out there. All right, so enough of that. It's pretty safe to say that we had a bonanza day for inside the numbers and the room today. The numbers were freaking spot on. So let's go talk about the bigger picture of the spiders and what to expect for the next few days. Obviously, we're at new all-time highs. She's up 0.34% on the day. She reached an important target towards the upside. That was 645 or 6,500 in the ES. So now that that's done, where does that leave us? Well, one thing to note real quick is that we have a doji candle formation today. So that is a sign signal of a trend change. Unfortunately, we did not get the accompanying volume with that. We had a very small range today, less than $4. But what's interesting, and this is one of the reasons why I wanted to start backwards today, is that we still have some unfinished business at 642.85. We came up a few cents short, so either tomorrow or Friday, she can certainly go back for another test and finish that number. But she doesn't have to stop there. She can go back for a retest of the most recent breakout area, which happens to be at around 639.60. That number can be used as support in an intraday perspective. We'll obviously decide that before tomorrow. We'll have the numbers fresh and ready, but we'll also use that as the bogey. If we get below, she's going to want to start her next leg down. Where to? Well, the first destination's pretty obvious. It could be the 20-period moving average. Markets don't like to be too extended from home base. But also, taking a look at the weekly chart, she's going to want to start climbing the most recent break-up candle low. And the low of that comes in at around 625.58. So we're going to be heading towards this area. This is an area of support, but getting below this low, which happens to coincide with the 50-period moving average, there's a ton of unfinished business in this area right here that she's going to want to head to. Just scrolling in, you could see that this gap needs to be filled right here. This one right here, you got an entrance to no man's land in this area. Obviously, this is pretty far away, and this is only if we get below some certain levels, but those are some of the areas, some of the next destinations on the board. So staying above 639.60 is extremely important. The most recent breakout area is also a big time breakdown candle high, so that is essentially going to be a bull-bear battle at that number. It's the bogey. Staying above it, then we're just going to keep grinding up higher, making new all-time highs. But remember, we are in choppy August. We finally broke the cycle today, but over the last week or so, it's been going like this. Down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up. Today we finally broke the chain. It's an up day, but that just goes to show that this is choppy August. So although we are poking our heads above all-time highs, I do expect some pullbacks within the next few days or so, or at least coming into next week. We do have a sign or signal of a trend change. Again, would have liked the accompanying volume, but regardless of that, it's still a doji candle. So we'll see if we get some follow through. And that's pretty much what we got for the spiders. I just want to cover this real quick because honestly, I think this is kind of ridiculous. Lazy Swing Trader had two profit targets today. We had one in BJ and then one in HON. That's Honeywell International. And both of them caught low of day on the freaking dot. BJ hit its entry target and profit target today, so kind of killing two birds with one stone. Entry alert at 101.46. We hit a profit target up above for a nice risk-free emotionless trade. 3.20% gain. How do you like them apples? You see the little apples right here? Yeah, I like those apples. Honeywell International on the frickin' dot. Entry price 214.30. We nailed the profit target. She hit it. This was overhead resistance. We have a 2.30% gain. Nice small little base hit, and base hits put you in the Hall of Fame. The Lazy Swing Trader Automagical Algo system is absolutely firing right now. If you click the link in the description below, you can get a free swing trade from this system on the house. You get the entire setup, the entry targets, the profit targets, the stop loss, everything that you need for a high quality setup. It's your decision if you want to take it. I'm just giving it to you for free, so you could get a little taste of the Lazy Swing Trader. What do we got in Camp IWM? She's up almost 2% on the day. Nice gap and go situation. She's above all the moving averages, so the trend is your friend, but that's not to say she's coming up into some pretty key overhead resistance levels. The first level on the board is this big time breakdown candle high at around 232, give or take. It's not the absolute high. Again, it's around 20% of the high in that vicinity, but nevertheless, this is a key important level. If you want to get technical, the high is 233.08. Just looking at it in a weekly chart, big time breakdown candle. The high of that candle comes in at 235.63. So this does create an overhead resistance zone. It's a place where the market shouldn't just waltz right through. And just for fun, because we don't usually do this often, we're going to use the Magic Calculator tool just to get some overhead resistance numbers up above and see what we come up with, see if anything lines up to create that full stack that we always look for. So we're going to take this pivot low right here, and you can see it a little bit more clear on the daily chart right here. This is a standout pivot low. Low comes in at 212.34. So we're going to head over to the Magic Calculator and put it in 212.34 and press calculate. And what it does is it gives you an entire list of resistance numbers up on the board. And it just so happens that we have a number at 234.76. So we put that number in red, 234.76, and that's within the zone of overhead resistance, more closer to the back end of the zone. So we got some stuff brewing up for IWM. This is an important area on the board. My number one favorite market leading indicator, about to come into some resistance up above. What about my second favorite market leading indicator, the transportation department? She's up 1.41%. And look at this. She's coming into a big time breakdown candle high. This is overhead resistance. Make that line good old frosty blue. And that number comes in at 15,990. That's pretty close to a big fat round number at 16,000. As you saw today, those big fat round numbers work. Not all the time, but most of the time. Nothing in the market is 100% certain. Always need to keep that in mind. But we try to gather all the puzzle pieces, all the full stacks, every single detail that we can get from the chart. We use it to our advantage to give us an edge in the market, the best possible chance of making money. If we grab a fib tool from this high to this low, we can see that that's a little bit past the 618 retracement. So we have a big time breakdown candle high in relation with a fib level. And then just for some extra certainty, let's go grab a pivot low and use the Magic Calculator. In this case, we'll grab this pivot low right here. That low comes in at 15,054. So we put the exact number in the pivot low and press calculate, and she gives us some resistance numbers. Scrolling down, we see that we got 16,051, and that's within the area of the big time breakdown candle high. So this is the next overhead resistance spot. We use the Magic Calculator in conjunction with the other knowledge and the other tools that we have in our toolbox to build the full stack. So we have both the IWM and the DJT coming into some key overhead resistance areas where they shouldn't just be able to waltz right through. These are big time areas. The market knew about these numbers. She went there for a reason. What that reason is, we don't need to know, but she showed you that that was an important spot. She was at this number, and then she crapped all the way down. So there was something going on at this number. She had a pretty nice up day, both 2 days in a row. Yesterday was 3%, today is 1.4%. So right now she's on a roll. Maybe she'll eat some time off the clock, Who knows, we'll see what she gives us. But that's what we got for the transportation department. What about the Q people? She's up 0.05%, so pretty much nothing day. We are a bit extended from home base, so just keep that in mind. We do have this big time breakdown candle high, so we're going to use this as the bogey. Staying above that is the bull case scenario. Getting below, she wants to go for another test of the 20-period moving average, and then this area right here. I'll throw out a number for you guys. That number comes in at 559, give or take. She could come up a little bit short, she can spike them through, but that is a number of support if we get there. But right now, she's above all the moving averages, so the trend is your friend. Our first number of resistance for the Qs was at 583.50. I put it on the board. She made a high of 583.32. She came up around 18 cents short. What are you going to do? Trader's life. But pretty cool how we're in uncharted territory and we're still pretty on point with the numbers. What do we got for XLF, the financials? She's up 0.57%. She completed the unfinished business up above yesterday, closing candles above the 20-period moving average. She closed candles once again above, and I'm going to put an area of overhead resistance where she shouldn't just waltz right through. Again, multiple markets are coming up into some pretty key overhead resistance places. So the numbers that I put up on the board are 53.10 and 53.44. That is the next overhead resistance place. She made a high today of 52.91. That doesn't really fall into the category of first time, best time. I would say these numbers are still good, but if she gets above this zone of overhead resistance and starts making new all-time highs, then we'll just say that we're wrong and we'll tip our caps and move on. But I see a lot of different markets, the IWM, the transportation department, the XLF, they are coming into some pretty big time places, which will more likely than not have an effect on the market. Maybe this is a sign signal of a trend change. Last but not least, we got SMH shaking my head, this semiconductors, smash mount. She's up 0.39%, little pseudo doji candle formation, sign and or signal of a trend change. We had a little bit more volume than the previous few days, which is a pretty good sign. So we'll just keep that in our back pocket and use it as some puzzle piece information. Staying above 294.70 is the bull case scenario. Getting below that, then the next destination on board is this gap right here at 286.62. Let's go ahead and just clean up these lines for a second, and we can see that this was a previous all-time high, getting above it, making it a previous breakout area at 297.38. She made a low today of 298.57, came up a tad bit short, and then bounced it in the other direction. So we'll go with the first time, best time principle, and we put the previous number up on the board, 294.70. So now if we get back down, the next target is 294.70, and that is a place for a possible scalp with potential from an intraday perspective. We are above all the moving averages, so the trend is your friend. Staying above 294.70 is the bull case scenario. Getting below, she's going to work on these lows right here, and then possibly go down to fill this gap right here at 286.62. Have I told you guys how much I appreciate you all? Without you guys, these videos or MSF would not be possible. That is true and accurate information. Put it on a sticky note. We're going to wrap things up for today. Thank you all so much for tuning in for another episode of Common Sense Market Analysis. I'm Mini Frost. We'll be back ready to go in uniform for tomorrow's morning session and the video later that night. Have a great rest of your day, folks, and take care now.